and I'll pass over. Apologies about the small numbers today, Patricia. I've had about nine
Oh,
apologies there this morning.
no
Uh,
worries. It's this time of year, isn't it?
it is, it is. With one or two of our members with COVID and things like that
Oh,
today,
goodness.
unfortunately. So bad colds and then hospital appointments and that as well.
Mhm.
Right. Hopefully, hopefully I'm sharing my screen, Emma.
You are,
Yeah.
Patricia. It hasn't come up yet, but you are.
There we go.
That's it.
Can you see that?
Yeah.
Yes, yes, we
Okay.
can.
So thanks very much, everybody who's joined today. Hope you've had a lovely Christmas and you're doing okay for the first part of 20. I still can't get my head around 2026. I've been writing the wrong date for a couple of days now. Um, this is my first day back after being off. My sister and all of her family came over to spend Christmas with us from Spain.
Oh,
So I'm back to work for a rest. Six adults and four kids. So
oh,
it was
it will have been
interesting.
busy, but
So
happy. I bet it was happy.
it was great fun.
Yeah.
But I'm glad to see the back of them. Is that terrible?
No, no, I think I don't know. We had family over as well. And it was just I was just so tired.
I know.
I was glad to say cheerio to them, but heartbroken as well because I'm not going to see
Having
them for a
anybody in
while.
your house, be it family or
Yeah,
whatever, anybody, it's just exhausting.
Absolutely.
Anyway, I was telling my children that my children who are, I mean, the youngest 17, the eldest 30, but I was telling my kids that I was doing a talk today about physical activity, and they thought this was hilarious because I wouldn't be the best at proposing physical activity and exercise. It's normally our wee physio that does this, but our wee physio doesn't work on a Tuesday now, so I'm doing this talk. So say my kids think it's very funny that I'm doing this wee talk about exercise. So it's to me as well. I'm talking to myself here. But it's this time of year. I probably thought this was a really good idea to have this wee talk about exercise just after Christmas when we're all still full of thinking we're going to be doing things different. We always spend the first sort of week or two of January thinking, we're going to do things differently this year. And whether you've made any resolutions or anything, I don't know. But sometimes one of the resolutions is to be a wee bit more active. So let's have a wee look here and see what this wee presentation is all about. So we want to differentiate between just keeping physically active and what exercise is. So physical activity is all physical movement, regardless of what energy is expended or the reason for it. So everything that we do, getting up in the morning, getting into the shower, getting washed and dressed and all the rest of it, that's all physical activity. So we all do a certain amount of physical activity every day. But exercise is something maybe more intentional, and exercise is performed specifically to enhance health and fitness. And it maybe involves planned and structured and maybe repetitive bodily movements. So anything like any sort of sport or exercise class or whatever. Oh, sorry, didn't mean to do that. That would be more exercise. And I suppose we need to you don't have to exercise in order to keep yourself fit. Sometimes just increasing that wee bit of physical activity is helpful, particularly when you're not so well. But we're going to be having a wee look at the different types of things that we can be doing that can improve our physical activity. So being active really is about moving more. And one of the things I think I put as a wee subtitle of this of physical exercise and just keep moving. I think it's really important that we just keep moving, even if we're not talking about running marathons and doing triathlons and stuff. But I think it's really important that we move as much as possible and we keep moving. And that could be everyday activities, things like just going up and down the stairs, Now, for some of you, just going up and down the stairs could be really very demanding, and you could maybe only manage that maybe once or twice a day. But even that activity of doing a wee bit of housework, walking, gardening, playing with the kids, playing with grandchildren, those are all physical activities that can help to keep you moving and maybe help you to move more. Or you might be interested in a more structured sort of exercise class. And things like cycling or bowls, swimming. Swimming's really good because it supports all your joints and you're not exerting as much um, physicality on your joints. Things like Pilates. My daughter and I have actually decided that we're going to join a Pilates class this year. That was one of our New Year's resolutions, if you like. So we'll see how that goes. I'll keep you. You can ask me next month when I'm talking of how well I've done with the Pilates. The other thing maybe to consider, particularly for yourselves, is any form of pulmonary rehab. Now, maybe throughout your diagnosis or at some stage during your condition, you may or may not have been offered pulmonary rehab. So I'm going to talk a wee bit about pulmonary rehab and just encourage you that if you haven't already, maybe to consider taking up a wee pulmonary rehab class because they can be very helpful. And it's specifically designed for people with breathing difficulties. Therefore, the exercises and stuff that they do will be tuned specifically to your condition. So that's maybe something, if you take away nothing else, at the end of this, maybe if you think about doing a wee bit of pulmonary rehab, or if you've already done it, maybe you'd like to share at the end how helpful you've found it. But we'll talk about that as we keep going. So being inactive it leads to all sorts of other problems. But sometimes we can decide, I've hurt my neck at the minute. And because I've hurt my neck, I'm not moving my neck as much. But the longer I don't move my neck, the more likely it is my neck's going to get stiffer and sorer. Isn't that right? So even though my neck is quite sore, I've got my scarf and all on me today, but even though my neck's quite sore, it's quite important that I keep moving my neck. Otherwise, I'm going to seize up. And for the same reason, becoming inactive because of breathlessness just leads to a bit of a vicious cycle. And this is what this wee slide here shows. So you start at the top there when you're feeling breathless, and what happens is we can become fearful that any kind of activity is going to make us more breathless. So maybe we avoid those activities that make you breathless. Maybe if going up and down the stairs makes you breathless, maybe you avoid the stairs, you take the lift. So when you do that, then you're doing less activity. So you're not keeping as physically active. And because you're doing less activity, your muscles become weaker. And because your muscles are weaker, weak muscles actually use more oxygen and are less efficient. So then you end up being more breathless. So it's like a vicious cycle. Can you see that? So it's important, even though you feel a wee bit, you're feeling breathless, it's actually important to keep moving. Now, again, I'm stressing that we're not talking about running marathons and all the rest of it. We're talking about just keeping moving, keeping doing all the everyday things that we normally do, and try and keep that level of activity as normal as we can, so that we can avoid those muscles becoming weaker and then demanding more oxygen and making us more breathless. So we'll just talk a wee bit about the benefits of exercise and activity. Exercise and activity reduces that awful feeling of tiredness, and it can increase our energy levels. And I think particularly at this time of year, we've eaten that much rubbish over the Christmas holidays, and we get into January and you're maybe feeling a bit, I don't know about you, but sometimes you can feel a wee bit low and lethargic in January. It's a bit of a low mood month, isn't it? But a wee bit of exercise will actually reduce that sort of feeling of lethargy and will increase your energy levels. It will obviously improve your strength and your flexibility, and that's all good. It improves your self-esteem and your confidence. If we exercise a wee bit, or if we just keep up our levels of physical activity, it improves our sleep pattern. We'll sleep better if we've been a wee bit more active through the day. It helps to produce, it's been proven that it can reduce anxiety and depression, and it helps you manage your weight. And that's one of those things that I don't know about you, but I always struggle with managing my weight. Get to a certain age and it's harder, isn't it? It can help to manage that feeling of shortness of breath. It can improve, and particularly for us ladies, it can improve our bone health. You get to a certain age and you don't really process calcium the same. And so ladies are a wee bit more at risk of things like osteoporosis. But exercise can actually help our bone density and help bone health. So it's really important that we remain physically active in order to keep our bones nice and healthy. Obviously improves our heart health, lowers your chances of getting other things like high blood pressure and diabetes, and it just generally improves your quality of life. So here's a wee man, and he's been told to increase his activity. And he says, my doctor told me to increase my activity. Chewing and changing channels and napping are activities. And indeed they are, but I think they meant maybe something a bit more than what he's hoping for. I've seen another wee cartoon like this, and it said, my physio asked me how flexible I was. And the wee man says, I told her I can't do Tuesdays and Wednesdays. But obviously she was asking how physically flexible he is. So we can make a wee laugh about it, but it's really important that we consider all our physical activities. So how much activity should we be doing? Well, when you're not well and you have a diagnosis, it's really important that you speak to your specialist first before you would consider, oh, sorry, any form of exercise program or anything like that. So you might want to speak to your respiratory nurse or your doctor or your GP before you would start any kind of program or scheme. But the general recommendation is that you try and build up to about half an hour of moderate intensity physical exercise most days of the week if it's within your abilities. So that can be broken down into 3 sets of 10 minutes. And 10 minutes would maybe take you out the door, around the garden and back in the house again. Or, just we're talking about walking even just for 5, 10 minutes couple of times a day, just keeping that level of activity up. And we're advised to try and improve muscle strength and balance at least 2 days a week. So even just standing, you see if you're standing at the sink and maybe you're peeling potatoes or maybe you're putting the kettle on or you're doing a couple of dishes, something that you could maybe do is just try and stand on one foot for a couple of seconds just to see what your balance is like, just to try and improve your balance. Balance and muscle strength is one of those things that's also linked to falls. And we talked about trying to avoid falls in one of the talks we had a few months ago. The more sort of the better your balance is, the less likely you are to have a fall. And particularly at the moment with the ice and the snow, if you're having to head out the door, even just to collect your milk bottles or get your post or anything, you want to make sure you don't slip and fall. And if your balance and your muscle strength is good, that's less likely to happen. And it's good to just encourage a wee bit more activity in your daily routine and try and minimize the amount of time you're sitting. And I mean, we all sit quite a bit through the day for different things. I mean, I would sit at my desk quite a bit, but I have a wee thing on the phone, and I don't know whether you have similar things on your phones, but the thing on my phone will tell me every now and again it's time to stand up. Do you have that on your phone? And even just listening to your phone and just standing up, give yourself a big stretch and maybe march on the spot for 2 or 3 seconds. Just even that is going to be quite helpful. And if you don't have that on your phone, you can get lots and lots of different wee apps that you can put in your phone that help to monitor your levels of physical activity. And as I say, we're not talking big differences here. We're talking about standing up maybe once an hour and marching on the spot for a couple of seconds and then sitting back down again. But you will be the best judge, it says here. You are going to be the best judge of what type of and what level of activity you're going to be able to do. So this is just a wee general guide. This is actually a guide that was devised by Macmillan, which is a cancer charity. And they have provided this wee chart for people who are recovering from or living with a cancer diagnosis. One of the big things with a cancer diagnosis can be that terrible fatigue and lethargy. And so this is one of the things. But the principles here that Macmillan have laid out for people with a cancer diagnosis would be exactly what we all need to be doing in order to keep ourselves active. So it's very transferable to people with other conditions as well. So what we need to do is we need to be active, just keep ourselves active, your heart and your mind. You need to build up a bit of strength and you need to try and improve your balance. And these are just different suggestions that they're given that can maybe help you to do those things. So building up strength, you know, if you're sitting in the seat and you have a tin of beans in each hand and you're lifting your 2 tins of beans like this, that's actually going to help to improve your muscle strength. That's going to build up your strength. You don't need to be going to the gym and lifting a whole lot of heavy weights. Just as I say, a tin of beans. If you're feeling extremely fit, maybe a wee small bag of potatoes. You know, those sorts of things. Don't be thinking you have to get into a gym and you have to be lifting proper weights and all the rest of it. You've got stuff in the house that you can do that will help you to do these things. And the other one about improving balance, you know, bowling, garden, you know, the bowls, that not 10-pin bowling. You can go 10-pin bowling if you like, but actually the proper sort of garden bowls, that's really good for your balance. And it's also not that, it doesn't take a great deal of energy to play bowls, but it's all about your posture and your balance and things like that. So bowling is actually a really good activity if you've got a bowling green near you that you could get involved in. Even from a social perspective, it would be quite good. The other thing it mentions there is Tai Chi. And Tai Chi is, maybe some of you know, is an exercise that they do in China, and everybody does it, and particularly elderly people. It's very slow, rhythmic movements. Now you can go online and you can find all sorts of people who'll tell you a wee bit about Tai Chi. But I think it's one of those things that for as you get older, it's probably something that's maybe more suitable for us as we get older than maybe all these aerobic activities that are offered in classes and things. There is another form of exercise called Qigong, which I actually do with my daughter. And Qigong is, I suppose it's a wee bit more physical than Tai Chi. And there's a lovely wee monk in Tibet who tells me and my daughter how to do the Qigong. And it's just, the exercises are maybe 5 or 10 minutes. And you watch him on the TV and he's a lovely wee man and he tells you what to do. It's Quigon. I can't remember how to spell it. Actually, I'll tell Tom, I'll email it to Tom. I'll maybe email him a wee YouTube link. But this wee man's exercises are really good. You can do them in the house. You can do them in front of the TV, and you're maybe standing for a couple of minutes and just swinging your arms about and stuff. But it's really good, and you do feel invigorated after you've done these few wee gentle exercises. So that's something you might find helpful. Here's our wee friend again. He says, my doctor told me to walk 5 days a week. the other 2 days, I think you're supposed to carry me, he says. That's like something I would say to my husband. Pulmonary rehabilitation. So, as I say, some of you may have been offered this and some of you may have participated in pulmonary rehab, but it's something that's offered in most healthcare trusts. It's something that is usually run by nurses, physios, and OTs, and it's very good for people who have a long-term chronic condition, things like pulmonary fibrosis. So what pulmonary rehabilitation is a supervised structured exercise program that's individually tailored for people living with chronic lung diseases like yourselves with pulmonary fibrosis. It'll include exercise training, breathing exercises, anxiety management, nutritional advice, education, and more. So basically what I'm doing today over an extended period, and maybe over a period of so many weeks, but actually getting you involved in doing physical exercise as well, giving you like a wee plan of exercises. People with pulmonary fibrosis and other types of lung disease can experience increasing shortness of breath, and you all know this, and a cough, and that increasing shortness of breath can lead to a decline in wanting to do physical activities, which means you end up becoming a wee bit isolated because you stay in the house. Not doing physical activities can worsen your breathlessness. It can worsen your fatigue. And all of those things put together can affect your mood and lead to things like depression and anxiety. Pulmonary rehabilitation has been found to improve physical function, breathlessness, mood, and quality of life in people with IPF and other forms of pulmonary fibrosis. So what are the benefits? All being well, I'm hopefully going to show you a wee video here. You've maybe seen this wee video before, but we'll see how we get on. And hopefully it will play for you. Can you see that? It's still loading. My computer's on go slow. Can you hear that okay?
No, we can't. There's just a photograph of a sign saying exercise.
Right. It hasn't. Right. Hold on 1 minute. I think I need to share that.
Can you help me with this?
When I'm Gordon Thorne, I have COPD.
Can you hear that now?
Here talking, yeah. Task Force Lung Health, yes.
I was diagnosed
Oh,
in
flip.
second half of 2017 when I was age 37.
Can
I
you
used
see?
to smoke a pipe.
Can you see that woman?
35.
Yes, and the man now, yes.
Okay.
And then I worked in a casino, and the smoke is just like a bug.
Signing up for that. Taking part in pulmonary rehabilitation really gave me a lot of self-confidence again. But importantly, it's helped me to enjoy being active again and staying active, enjoying exercise. Such an anxious time and so frustrating when I was first diagnosed. I had all these sudden limitations on what I could do. One of the things that pulmonary rehabilitation has really helped me with is helping me to understand my condition better and the impact it has on my body, so that I can understand that being breathless itself is not something to be scared of, that getting out of breath when you exercise is perfectly normal, being encouraged. From my mental health perspective, it's reduced isolation.
I like the people I enjoyed, and I feel well when I'm leaving.
I've gone from being very frustrated and very scared about doing any kind of physical exertion like climbing. And it gave me the confidence to actually do 5K park run. That was a real positive achievement.
I have improved in the estimate as I've come to the class. Lovely. Absolutely lovely. I'm enjoyed it very much. There are days when I get really tired, but other days I got the energy.
I feel good today. Today's a good day.
Okay. So maybe some of you have seen that wee presentation before. That we let's see, I'm trying to get my slides back. Can you see my slides again? The slide that says exercise on it. Can you see that? That's
Yes,
great.
yes, I can see that.
That's great. So, I'd say some of you might have seen that before. So that's just people who have been participating in a pulmonary rehab class that were just sharing different things. And you could see there was people of all sorts of ages and activity levels as well who were participating in that. Pulmonary rehab, as I say, should be offered by most of your healthcare trusts, no matter where you live, but your GP should know where your nearest one would be and who you would need to be referred to in order to attend that. No, let us see. My screen's not my um the slides aren't moving. Oh, oh, for goodness sake. Right.
It's moved now.
Oh no, it's flying.
E4.
Oh no, that's because I'm too impatient. I should have waited a minute. I was pressing it too many times. Right. So one of the worries that we have maybe whenever we have a lung condition is that feeling of breathlessness that you get when you maybe do anything physical. And that's very understandable. And this, you've maybe heard of this Borg scale. It's a scale that kind of rates how breathless maybe you're feeling. And I suppose what you're aiming for when you do a wee bit of exercise is that kind of moderate intensity. You should be able to, you should be breathing a wee bit heavier. You should, whenever you're doing a bit of exercise, you should be feeling a wee bit more breathless, but you should still be able to talk and hold a conversation. If you find if you're doing an activity and it stops you actually being able to talk, then you're overdoing it. You're doing too much. What you're aiming for is somewhere in that in between. That nice doing a wee bit of activity that makes you a wee bit breathless, but not going to the point where you can hardly talk. Does that make sense to everybody? That's just a very that scale is used by like physios and other professionals to enable people to rate how they're feeling after any kind of activity. And it's the green sort of section that you're aiming for. All right. So the modified Borg is what we would use here. And you would be asked to rate your feelings of breathlessness. And I say what you're aiming for is a moderate to somewhat severe. That's where you are whenever you're doing exercise. If you're feeling breathless at a time, if you're feeling breathless at rest, that's not the time to be doing any kind of exercise. If you're feeling breathless at rest, then you just give it a bye ball for that period. But if you are, feeling not too bad and you feel you want to do a wee bit of activity, what you're aiming, I suppose what we're trying to say is don't get scared if your breathlessness becomes a wee bit worse. That's normal. If I go up and down, I don't have a chronic lung condition, but if I go up and down the stairs, I get out a puff. That's normal. That's normal for anybody. So there is an expectation that you will get a wee bit more out of puff, but you want to make sure that it doesn't get beyond that 3 or 4. So that moderate to somewhat severe. You don't want to get into that severe breathlessness. If you find it's becoming severe, then you need to stop. Okay. And that's why the pulmonary rehab is a very good resource because they can keep an eye on all of these things. They'll actually monitor your breathlessness and your sats and everything while you're doing these exercises, and they can give you advice about what's appropriate to you. So we'll move on. So some considerations if you've been prescribed oxygen and if you're told that your oxygen levels drop when you exercise, portable oxygen might help you increase how much exercise you do. So you wouldn't be going out and doing exercise. If you're on oxygen, then you need to keep your oxygen on when you're doing your exercise. That might sound like your granny telling you to suck eggs, but it's some people maybe don't realize that you maybe need to even increase your oxygen a wee bit. So maybe when you're at rest, maybe if you need oxygen, maybe at like 1 liter or whatever, maybe when you're doing something a bit more physical, you might need to increase that to 2 liters. I'm just giving you examples here, but it's important that your oxygen is tailored to the activity that you're doing. So you may have been told by your respiratory nurse, that when you're just sitting about, you keep your oxygen at a certain level. If you're doing a bit more exercise, you're walking about, you maybe put it up a wee bit. If you're doing something a wee bit more physical, you might need to put it up another wee bit. Does that make sense to everybody? And again, that's why it's actually probably more beneficial to do before we start maybe doing our own thing, getting involved with the pulmonary rehab team in the hospitals and find out what's the best for you. Breathing controls, there's lots of different breathing techniques that you can use when you exercise to help control your breathing. Blow as you go. So breathing out when you're making a big effort. What we tend to do is we're breathing in, and we breathe in and we breathe in, and we forget sometimes to breathe out, or we hold our breath. I know I would hold my breath when I'm running up the stairs. So it's really important that you blow out whenever you're making a big effort. So when you're standing up, or if you're stretching or bending, do you like emphasize that blowing out of the breath when you're doing something a wee bit more physical, and breathing through pursed lips as if you're whistling. Have you been told to do this as well when you're breathing out? So like you're blowing a whistle, okay? And that is going to, when you're exercising, in through the nose, out through the mouth, in through the nose, out through the mouth. And do you remember we talked before about when you're breathing in, how you should breathe out twice as long? So if you're breathing in, try and make that breath out last. So if you're breathing in for 1, you're breathing out for 2. Okay? If you're breathing in for 2, you're breathing out for 4. Okay, does that make sense? So it's really important. It sounds stupid for me to say to you, when you're doing exercise, keep breathing and keep focusing on your breathing, because, of course, we all know we'll have to breathe. But what tends to happen is when you're doing something, you're so fixed on actually doing the activity, you forget to breathe and you hold your breath, and then that's what's going to maybe make you feel that wee bit more breathless. So it's really important that you focus on breathing through the exercises and get into good positions. So positions of ease. If you get so short of breath when you're physically active, you might find that there's certain positions that you can get into that will help reduce that breathlessness. And there's a wee video there. I'm not sure. I hope I'm nearly scared to click this in case we get lost again, but I'll try and click this. Let us see if it works. But I think I need to share it. Hold on. So, can you see that? Asthma, managing breathlessness. Can you see that? Okay, here we go. Oh, I can't hear her. Can you hear her? I can't hear her. I'm going to turn it off because I can't hear her. But let's see. There we go. I'll maybe all these slides will be available at the end. I'll send them to Tom, and you maybe be able to get that wee video yourselves. The woman, I couldn't hear anything, so I'm assuming you couldn't hear anything either. So we'll get that sorted. Okay. Being active during an exacerbation. So whenever you maybe would get a chest infection, and especially at this time of year when there's so many things going about, so many coughs and colds and different things, or maybe just you're having a flare up of your symptoms. Well, obviously in that situation, you're not going to be as active. You're not going to be able to exercise as much as you usually would. But again, it's really, really important that you try and keep as active as possible. Even if you're sitting in a chair, try and get up, even just stand up for even a couple of seconds every hour. And march on the spot. You don't need to walk, just get up and march on the spot. Doing some chair exercises, sit to stand, just doing your leg and your knee extensions. You can see there's a wee example here from an exercise booklet. So you can do trunk twists. So you can sit in a chair or you can stand with your feet apart and your arms folded. And basically you're just going from side to side. You can do that. I can do it in the chair here while I'm sitting. And turn your shoulders, arms and heads round to the right. And then come back to the center and then round to the left. And then into the center. All right, and side bends, and again, you can do this either sitting in your chair or you can stand up and do it. Just leaning down to one side and then down towards the other side. Don't lean forwards or backwards, just try and lean to the side. You can give it a wee go while you're sitting there if you like. And then ankle bends, either standing or sitting. You can use one foot at a time. You can alternately tap your toes and then your heel on the ground in front of you. And that's even good for your circulation. When you're sitting for any length of time and, you maybe get a wee bit of pins and needles or whatever, that wee exercise, that wee ankle bend is really good for your circulation. And see if you're on a plane or anything, you're going anywhere, that's a really good wee exercise to do for your circulation. And maybe even just doing wee circles with your ankles as well. So those are all the exercises that you can still do even if you are a bit more unwell. They're very gentle. You take them at your own pace. But as I say, it's really important just to keep yourself as flexible and just to keep the joints moving. Here we go. So some advice, don't exercise if you're feeling particularly unwell or if you have a temperature or other symptoms that are of concern. So don't do it, but try and keep moving. That doesn't mean you don't keep moving, but don't exercise. Don't be doing the proper structured exercise if you're not feeling well. Make sure you're wearing good shoes and nice, loose, comfortable clothing. Very important, make sure you stay hydrated. Have a wee bottle of water with you, or a cup of tea in my case. Wait at least an hour after eating before you would try any kind of exercise. Stop if you develop any sudden symptoms like dizziness or chest pain or any breathing problems. Avoid any activities that might increase your risk of falling. So nothing too dramatic. No balance beams and things like that. And if you use an inhaler or a GTN spray or oxygen, take it with you and use it as you would need to use it whenever you're doing any kind of physical activity or exercise. So some top tips. Make a wee list of the different types of things that you actually enjoy doing. Maybe there's things that you haven't done for a while because you're worried about your breathlessness. Make a wee list of those sorts of things that you really enjoy doing, and then maybe plan to try and do those things with other people who would be supportive, and maybe break it down into smaller bits. maybe keeping a wee activity diary and setting a wee goal. Maybe your goal would be, you know, today I'm going to stand up and march in the spot for 10 seconds. And maybe do that for a week, and then maybe next week you could stand up every couple of hours and march on the spot for 20 seconds, 30 seconds, and just build up your resilience, if you like. And then you can reflect then on your achievements, because you can look back. If you keep a wee diary, you can look back and say, well, look, a couple of weeks ago I was just standing up and marching for 10 seconds, and now I'm up to 40 seconds. And those sorts of wee toady goals are actually really encouraging. And don't be disheartened, but if your goals aren't achieved, just look back and say, well, what went wrong? Was I not well that week? You know, what happened to me that week that I wasn't able to do my 30 seconds or whatever? Work at your own pace and gradually build up those activity levels. Listen to your body. It's really important that you listen to your body and you make sure if you're getting pain in an area that you don't normally get pain, stop and maybe go and speak to your GP or something. Or if you become really very breathless, again, stop, have a look at your oxygen levels, etc. But listen to your body. Don't keep going. If you've got pain anywhere or discomfort, you know, stop and see if it calms down. And if it's a continual thing, please go to the doctor about it. But what's really important is that you have fun. You know, we're doing this because we want to keep ourselves fit and active, but it's also really important that we're having fun. We're doing things that we enjoy. So that's why it's really important that number one, you make a list of the things that you actually enjoy doing. There's really no point in you saying, okay, I'll go swimming. If you don't enjoy the water or you don't like swimming, there's no point in doing that. It needs to be something you enjoy. Maybe what you would enjoy is going to a coffee shop like me for a wee cup of coffee. And so my aim would be, I think I've told you before, my husband parks the car a bit further away from the coffee shop then and makes me walk to the coffee shop. And that's my incentive then and that's my goal, and I'm having fun because I know when I get to the end of my exercise, my walk, I'm going to get a nice cup of coffee and a scone in the coffee shop. So make sure you're having fun and you're doing something nice, and maybe you give yourself a wee treat at the end of it. And think of things you maybe have never done before. And as I say, maybe something Pilates. You can go to classes that are Pilates that are seated. You don't even have to get down on the floor to do them. And Pilates is one of those things. It's quite gentle on the breathing. It's not a very aerobic activity, but it certainly moves your muscles and improves your muscle strength. And then very, very importantly, always ask for advice from your doctor or your GP or your respiratory specialist. And they might actually refer you to a physio, or hopefully they will refer you for pulmonary rehab as well. This is just a wee example of maybe goal setting. Again, this is actually from a Macmillan leaflet that was designed for people who wanted to become, I think it's called Move More. And it gives you a wee list of, you know, your goals and what you're going to do and your physical activity. And as I say, it's totally transferable for all anybody with any kind of condition. You don't have to have a cancer diagnosis to avail of this. So the wee booklet is Macmillan Move More. And again, you can get that from the Macmillan website. And here's another wee and it's just a different type of that's a pulmonary rehab one. That's an Asthma and Lung UK we form. And there's lots and lots of different resources and schemes out there that are really, really useful and fun. Pulmonary rehab, we've talked about your wee walking apps on your phone, your fitness trackers. You know, my phone tells me that I haven't walked enough. I think I told you there was one day my phone told me I'd walked like 34 steps, And I think that was actually, I had literally just got out of bed and gone to the toilet and come back again. That was all I had done. I wasn't too well, but I thought, isn't that funny? There's lots of different walking groups that you can get involved in. There's the Asthma and Lung UK Exercise Handbook. And then there's other things. And the Chest, Heart and Stroke people have an Inspire choir. And there's all sorts of, see if you like singing. Singing is really, really good for helping your breath control and your breath support. And being in a choir is really, really good for your mental health. And they've also done all sorts of studies that have shown that singing with other people is actually much better for you than just even singing on your own. And there's all sorts of choirs out there. There's rock choirs, and there's there's choirs you don't even have to be able to sing to be involved with. So if you enjoy music and you enjoy singing, maybe that's something you would enjoy doing. That is a form of physical exercise, really, really good for breath support, and it's maybe something you could consider. And there's all sorts of other things there. So this has been recorded, so you'll be able to look back on this and see all these websites and things again. And that's just a wee picture of the Move More guide, the Macmillan guide that we picture at the bottom. That's what that wee booklet looks like. So when we talk about exercise, we nearly always have to talk about diet. And I hate that word diet, especially after Christmas. You know, everybody's going on a diet and everybody's cutting down. And I think they were talking on the radio about dry January and people not drinking for January, or veganuary. Have you heard that? Where people go vegan or stop eating meat in January. Well, in my house, we have decided we're having a no takeaway January. So we're not having any takeaways for the whole of January. We'll see how we get on. It's only what date is it? It's only the 6th of January. So we'll see how we get on. Again, you can ask me the next time I come to talk to you how well I have done with that. But from a financial point of view, as well as a health point of view, we've decided we're not having any takeaways for the whole month of January. But it's really important that we eat well, and we eat a healthy, balanced diet, and we hydrate well. And especially if you're going to be doing a wee bit more exercise and you haven't maybe been exercising, it's really important that you give yourself the right kind of fuel to be able to do the exercise. So if your appetite is poor, maybe little and often is more beneficial. So cup of tea in the morning, we morning coffee, a light lunch, cup of tea in the afternoon, and a light tea. That might actually be better for you than trying to get through a big meal, particularly if maybe when you're eating you get breathless. So small meals and more often might be more helpful to you, but it's important to keep that calorie intake in order to have the fuel to fuel our exercise and to fuel our movement. Consult a dietitian maybe if you think you could benefit from a wee dietary supplement. And if you're diabetic, make sure you follow your recommended diet and monitor your blood sugar, particularly if you're going to be doing a wee bit more exercise than you would normally do, because that can affect your blood sugars. Calcium is really, really important, particularly, as I say, for ladies as we get older, because we are not able to process things just as well. So it's really important that we try and bump up our calcium intake and make sure that we're getting that from milk and cheese and yogurt. And my daughters are vegan, so a lot of the soya products actually have added calcium, and a lot of the other there's other fortified like milk alternatives that would have calcium and things in them. And vitamin D is really good, not just for your bone health, but vitamin D is really important in order to improve your sleep. Vitamin D is what builds up the melatonin in your system, and melatonin is what is the chemical that actually tells your body it needs to go to sleep. So being out in the sun, even if you're only out in the sun for a few minutes, it's actually going to be really good for your ability to sleep. So even if you go outside for a few minutes every day, just getting out into the open air and the sunshine will actually help you to sleep better. But it also improves your bone health. So that's a double bonus there. I know we don't get enough a lot of sun in Northern Ireland, but even just being outside, you believe it or not, you still do get a wee bit of vitamin D through the clouds. So it's really important that we are safe in the sun. That's what, if you're going away to Spain, the lady was talking earlier about going away to Spain. We maybe don't need to worry about that so much in Northern Ireland until that 2 weeks we get in like May when it's really warm, and then it goes back to normal again after that. So your eat well plate, and again, I'm telling my granny to suck eggs. Everybody knows what we should be eating, don't we? It's been drummed into us. We need to make sure that we're eating a good portion of fruit and vegetables, that we have a good portion of carbohydrates, and your carbohydrates are your potatoes and your rice and your pasta. You need your milk and your dairy foods for your sources of calcium or alternatives. You need a wee bit of fat and sugar, now not as much obviously as the other things, but you do need wee bits of that. And then you need protein and non-dairy sources. You get protein from your dairy, but you need non-dairy sources of protein. So things like beans, it doesn't have to be meat. Meat is a good source of protein, but beans and pulses and things like that will also give you a good source of protein. So that's it. And that's us. That's me done. If anybody has any questions, I'll stop sharing. And if anybody wants to ask me anything.
Hi, Patricia. I have a question. It's not really regarding exercise. It's my posture I have a problem with. And I do know how to stand properly, but I
Uh-huh.
find it hard.
Yeah,
And I
yeah,
have to constantly think, push my shoulders back, my hips
yeah.
forward.
Uh-huh.
And I'm fine when I'm not tired.
Yes,
The more tired I get, the more I slump forward.
yes.
And I don't realize I'm doing it.
I,
I've loads of photos and I'm like this in it, and it's affecting my breathing. You know,
yes.
I start getting breathless
'Cause you,
quicker because of the way I'm
uh-huh.
breathing.
Yes,
And, I've tried sort of I think about it as much as I can, but as
yeah,
soon as I get tired and then I start going a bit breathless,
yeah.
I can't do it. I
I
just
know.
have to, lean
It's
forward and do what I do.
I don't, it's very hard. And I think particularly like I have a wee hump in my back. I have problems with my spine, and I have like a wee hump. So I'm permanently sort of curved over. But and I'm always being told, but it you have to be very intentional. You have to think about it all the time,
That's
don't
right.
you? You have to constantly think about it. And the more natural thing is to just slump into that position.
Yeah,
But I
yeah,
suppose it's just, even put a wee thing in your phone to remind you, sit up straight. Even,
yeah,
do you know what I mean? It's about reminding ourselves, giving ourselves we reminders and hints,
mm,
because that's just what we do. But you know yourself that if you do sit in that more sort of curved over position, it's not good for the breathing. So it
that's
is
right.
better to sit back and sit upright and get the
Yeah.
lungs opened. So it's just reminding ourselves to do that, and that's hard.
I
That's
find it really
hard.
difficult. I really
Uh-huh.
do. It's mostly when I'm walking,
Uh-huh.
if I'm stood up doing something, I just stood
Uh-huh.
in the one spot. I
Yeah.
really struggle and I end up having to go and sit down
Yes.
so I can breathe properly, you know.
Yes. And that's okay, sit down, but maybe when you sit down in a nice, I mean,
Yeah,
my posture's terrible too,
yeah,
but it is one of those things you have to be really intentional. You have to
I
really think
know.
about it. I know. Well, I
There's
like,
no magic. There's no magic.
there's no magic wand, I'm afraid. No,
No.
afraid not. You can get things like you can get like brace things that you can put on that will keep your shoulders back, but I don't know how comfortable they would be. And I often wonder whenever whenever you put something, when you add something to your frame, then maybe you become more reliant on it and your muscles don't work as well. You're
Yeah.
actually better using your own muscles to maintain that shape rather
Yeah.
than relying on something else,
Yeah.
I
I just didn't think it would be comfortable for me. I have a bit of arthritis in my shoulder as well, and I don't really want
no,
that sort of
I don't,
restriction of something
no.
holding me back, you know?
I don't think that I mean long term I don't think they're a good idea.
No.
Because I say they stop your muscles from doing what your muscles are supposed to be doing. So really it's just a matter of just constantly reminding yourself,
Yeah. I was just going to say as well, up to last May, I was going to the gym once a week.
Uh-huh.
It was CrossFit, but it was a class for people who had injuries and were coming
Okay.
back slowly. And I'm not fit enough. I can't do it now. But
Mm.
it's just gone too bad. I can't do it now. But when I went, I done the exercise with my oxygen, with
Uh-huh.
CD, which is
Uh-huh.
really heavy.
Yeah.
And I was going to say to the trainer, because he'd say, "Will everybody get a dumbbell?" And I thought, but I'm carrying something heavier than
I
a
mean,
dumbbell.
you're already carrying
I
it.
and I had the bag you get for it, and I had it
Uh-huh.
on the back. And I
Uh-huh.
thought, all I need to do is take this off and use it as a dumbbell. And I was going to say to him a few times, but I didn't like to. So
Yeah.
there's me with oxygen on my back holding that, and then
Uh,
lifting the dumbbell as well. I used to say to him when I come back, I'm not good now.
I'm sure you are. I'm
Yeah.
sure you are. No, I know.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, there are other wee sort of classes that are specifically for people with there's ones actually Macmillan would run some exercise classes that are for people who've maybe had like lung cancer and
Yeah.
stuff like that, which would be more of a level. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It depends on your area. It depends where you
And
live.
that's my problem.
Yeah.
I mean, I could probably pick up a rehab class, but I'd have to go
Aye.
to Antrim, and it's only an
It's
hour's drive,
yes,
and
that's
so
yes.
if driving 2 hours to do it, and maybe just doing like half an hour exercise, it was
Uh,
just,
it's
wouldn't
not
be
really
enough for me.
the drive's probably exhausting.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
know, I know, I know. The other alternative would be to request that maybe you be assessed by a physio and the physio could give you a wee exercise plan,
yeah.
you
There is
know?
some online ones that Ilfa put on, and they're very good,
Uh,
So if anybody were interested, I think
yeah.
Tommy found some information.
Yeah, we're going to try to work a bit closer with ILFA, that's Irish Lung Federation,
Uh-huh.
this year, and a little bit of their the current chairman stepped down. I did try to get some work done, but the new chairman now, Liam Galvin, I know very well. I work with him on other groups around Europe, and I'm going to work with Liam this year to see because they actually have it all set up,
Oh,
and you can become a member of ILFA and take part in the classes.
very good.
But they do some very good online courses now.
I
We
say
were
an
involved with
online
them
one would be great.
just after COVID. We were involved with them for
Yeah.
about a year. In fact, the courses that they ran, there was more from here in Northern Ireland, our charity, than there was in the south that attended. But I want to try and get that back on schedule. There's things that they're organizing that we could take part in and vice versa. So we're going to try and work a little
Yeah.
bit more with them
Yeah.
into next year in that way. Uh, I know Liam very well, Liam Galvin. So
Yeah.
we'll do a bit of work with him, but that's in the next coming weeks
And
anyway.
I think, Jerry, you took part in their classes as well, didn't you? Can't hear me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's just muted.
I think you're muted, Jerry.
On their classes as well.
Sorry, yes, I
Maybe Shirley, good.
I took a lot of their classes, particularly their chair yoga classes, which are very, very good.
Mhm.
And sometimes they're taken by Dara, who's a former GAA All-Star,
Yeah.
an expert in yoga, and his sister actually is recovering from a double lung transplant, so it's in his family.
Yeah. Yeah.
Their exercise classes are excellent,
Yeah.
and they're at a very good, slow, steady pace, and they're done with the aid of chairs and other bits and pieces, you know. And again, it's one of those things. Go at your own pace
Yeah.
and do as much as you can for as long as you can. And I find them very good.
That's really
I would
good.
recommend it. At least give it a go and see how you get on.
Patricia, I really enjoyed your your slideshows, and there's a lot of things. You just reminded me about my breathing exercises and things that you tend to forget when you get breathless. You just get into a bit of a panic sometimes,
I know.
and the blow and go. I used to use it all the time, and I stopped using it. So I'm going to get back to that, you know, as well, and see how well that helps me, you know. I
Brilliant.
just thank you, really appreciate it.
Oh, you're
Your
very
talk.
welcome. Well, here, if nobody's any other questions, I'll head on. That's okay.
Thank you very much.
I have one question,
Oh,
Patricia,
sorry.
before you go quickly. I've been travelled very recently with restless legs through the whole day, not just I used to have restless legs whenever I was a lot younger, whenever I was 18, and the solution was just to go to bed, and then that cured it. Lying down, it went away straight away. But now I'm tortured, and it's through the day, it's nighttime, and even whenever I wake up in the morning, that could be there instantly. I'm just wondering, is there any particular time of day that it's better to do exercise, or is it just a case of trying to keep moving through the day?
I think I don't really know enough about it to have you been to your GP? Have they made any
Yeah,
recommendations?
yeah. No, they've put me on a amitriptyline to
Yeah.
see if that dulls it down, at
Uh,
least to let me sleep.
and has it helped at all?
Well, they said it would take maybe a couple of weeks to take effect, and
Okay.
I've only been
Okay.
on it for a week now.
Right.
I actually do think that it has
Right.
made a slight dent in it, but like I'm sitting here now, and it's like ants in my pants because my
Uh-huh.
legs are just driving me nuts.
I would I don't know enough about it, but my gut feeling would be that shorter, more regular exercise, you know, getting up, walking about, sitting down, that might be more useful than any kind of intense workout, keeping it all for one. I mean, in my head, that's what, because you used to get restless legs. Sometimes pregnant ladies would get restless
Oh,
legs.
that's definitely not happening.
But one of the things would be just to, get up and move about a wee bit, but shorter throughout the day periods of exercise rather than one big intense time, I would say. But please let me look into it. I'll actually have a wee look and see if I can find anything, and I'll get back through Tom. I'll get back and let you know if I find
Appreciate it.
anything.
Thank you.
Is that all right?
Thank you.
Patricia, just before you go, could I ask, and it was just something I noticed in the video on the pulmonary rehabilitation, none of the people in that video were on oxygen. Is it still suitable for people? I mean, there's a lot of us here in this group who are on oxygen 24/7, you know.
Yes. I think, now don't quote me on this, but I think when they were making the video, they picked the best of the bunch, if you know what I mean. And maybe the people who attended more frequently, and probably the people who attended more frequently are people who maybe weren't as dependent on oxygen. And that's why they had them in the video. But realistically, pulmonary rehab is probably more beneficial to people who are on oxygen. You know, so yes, but it's all it will be suited to your specifications. Do you know what I mean? You will be assessed, and you'll be assessed as you know, as you and what you need, and then recommendations will be made for you personally. So I mean, it shouldn't really matter whether you're dependent on oxygen or not. You still should be, you know, able to make use of the pulmonary rehab, but it should be tailored to your needs.
Okay, thank you for that.
Just to come in support that, Patricia, everything that you said there. Normally speaking, Desi, you will find that the bulk of the people will be on and using oxygen. I talked to a couple of the rehab groups, the ILDers invite me to come and speak to the group, and I generally find that the bulk of them are on oxygen. They'll assess you as an individual, and what they're looking for is the benefit of the exercise. So they're looking at where you're at to start with, then what you're capable of doing, and they'll slowly build you up. And therefore, the idea of the exercise is to get you being able to do more, you know, no matter what oxygen levels you're on, and that you feel you
I would just be
recover.
scared that somebody seeing that video in isolation would maybe
Aye.
think, oh, I can't do that because I'm on oxygen and they weren't, you know what I mean?
True,
Yeah.
true. It's a good point,
Maybe
Desi.
It's
something
actually
to
something I might
Yeah.
feed that back to the people who made the video.
Mm.
Because it's maybe something that, you know, it maybe didn't occur to them. But I think you're absolutely right. You know, all the people that they showed were people who weren't dependent on oxygen. So maybe it wasn't the best
Mhm.
You know, it's just if
example.
you see it if you saw it in isolation, you might think, well, that's not for me, you know.
Yes, I totally agree. Yeah, I'll feed
But no,
that back.
thank you for that, and thanks Tom for clarifying that as well.
Okay.